Ryan budget, supported by nearly every Republican. Again, just Tea Party stuff. It would cut taxes for corporations and the rich from the current 35% down to 25%. At the same time, their budget dismantles Medicare and Medicaid, slashes the whole range of programs that undergird the middle class, everything from education to infrastructure to health care. Well, that's Paul Ryan, and that's the House Republicans. As Sue said, as you know, I chair the Health Committee, the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. It was known for a long time as Ted Kennedy's committee, and I now chair that. But I also chair the Appropriations Committee that funds the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Education, the Department of Labor, NIH, National Institutes of Health, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and a bunch of other stuff. So my appropriations bill was up before our committee this week, a couple of days ago, and I'm pleased to tell you that in our appropriations bill, we were able to increase money for Pell Grants, increase child care block grants, we increased money for Title I education, we increased money for job training, we increased money for the National Institutes of Health, we increased by $1 billion preventative health measures in America. Every single one of those, Ryan, except one, I will say, the NIH, they accepted that. Every other single one, the Ryan budget cuts. So as you can see, we got our fight cut out for us. But I think these are the things that we have to tell people. This is what we're for. These are the things that we're for. This year, the Republicans have changed the rules of the game all across this country. Republican governors and legislatures have passed laws to try to prevent students, minorities, and poor people from casting ballots. They tried to do it here in Iowa. Thank God for Mike Gronstal and the senators. And in the Citizens United case, Republicans on the Supreme Court gutted the ability of Congress to prevent corporations and billionaires from using their vast wealth to buy elections. You've all heard of the Koch brothers, the oil and gas billionaires. Two brothers have pledged to spend $200 million this year to destroy President Obama and elect a Republican president in Congress. That's just two people. $200 million. Now make no mistake, for the Koch brothers, this is not a contribution. This is an investment. They expect to get their money back many times over. When the Koch brothers give $200 million to Romney and the Republicans, that's a business transaction. They expect the Romney administration to give them the right to drill on public lands, in national parks, tax breaks worth millions, non-enforcement by EPA, and on and on. In other words, their campaign money is not about what's good for America, it's about what's good for the Koch brothers. It's all about greed. They and those that support them poisoned America in the 8 years under Bush with their total pursuit of greed and wealth and protecting those that got their wealth from taxes and being involved in supporting their country. That's all it's been about. They poisoned America. Now we have President Obama trying to get us well again, get us out of this mess. And we have been. We've been adding jobs. You heard the ball cap. We've been getting jobs out. Home values are starting to come up. The economy is starting to move. Are we totally well? No. But we're a heck of a lot better off than we were when they poisoned us during those 8 years. Now what do they say? They didn't give us enough poison. We just got to have more of what they did 8 years ago. For many Republicans and their corporate donors, it's always been about greed. Let me share a quote from the philosopher Bertrand Russell more than a century ago. I like this. He said, quote, "The modern conservative is engaged in one of man's oldest exercises in moral philosophy. That is, the search for a superior moral justification for selfishness." Friends, if there's one thing I've heard in politics, it's that it's absolutely fatal to underestimate your opponent. Republicans have created new realities, new rules. They've tilted the playing field. Citizens United case. So I don't fear the Republican candidates, but I do fear the money. The right-wing millionaires and billionaires and the super PACs are going to pour into Iowa to try to defeat Bruce Braley and Dave Loebsack and Leonard Boswell and Christy Vilsack and yes, Mike Ronstall and Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Again, mark my words, this election is going to be more important to the direction of this country than any election in more than half a century. The American people must decide, what kind of a country do we want? Are we going to rescue and restore the middle class? Or are we going to have a government of, by, and for corporations and the wealthy? Are we going to have an economy that works for Main Street or just for Wall Street? Are we going to have a government that serves the 99% or a government that just caters to the 1%? So friends, I hope I've made it clear. We've got a heck of a fight on our hands between now and Election Day. But the activists in this room are the leaders of our Iowa Democratic Party. You are the generals and the captains and the lieutenants. And I've never believed in leading from behind. I believe that each of us should set an example of doing the difficult nuts and bolts work that wins elections. We've got to work our hearts out for our great congressional candidates, Bruce Braley and Dave Loebsack and Leonard Boswell and Christy Vilsack. Our Iowa legislative races. Our Iowa legislative races are just as important. We need to win back the Iowa House. We need to increase the majority in the Iowa Senate. And in particular, we need to give Senator Mike Ronstall every support possible, because they're going to come after him. Mike has been a rock of Gibraltar in stopping the right-wing agenda in our state, so they're really going to go after him. But we're not going to let this happen. And one more thing this morning, I have no patience for some folks who say they don't feel the same thrill they experienced 4 years ago. Well, my friends, successful campaigns are not about mood control or magic. They're about what Deval Patrick said, standing up and fighting back. That's what it is. Our conviction that the Democratic Party has always stood for, at least since the days of Franklin Roosevelt, and that is, we believe in a ladder of opportunity for all of our citizens. Now, mind you, I didn't say an escalator, did I? A lot of times Democrats were accused, we say, oh, you just want to give people a free ride. We don't want to give anyone a free ride. We want to build a ladder. Follow my analogy. You see, with a ladder, you still have to exert energy and effort and initiative to get to the top. But the rungs have to be there. And what are those rungs? A lot of the things that we put there to enable people to climb that ladder. Everything from maternal and child health care programs to preschool programs, Title I, education, student loans that's been mentioned earlier, and it means job training. It means the right of people to bargain collectively and form unions. It means that we have a good pension system, solid Social Security, solid Medicare, all of the things. And sometimes people fall off. Sometimes through no fault of their own, an illness, an accident, whatever it might be. That's why we have job retraining. We've got to get people back up and put them back on it again. And about 20 years ago, 22 years ago now, I think about it. 22 years ago, we looked around America and we said, wait a minute, there's some people can't climb that ladder no matter how hard they try. No matter how many rungs you put on it, they can't climb that ladder. These were people with disabilities. And so we took the lead. We took the lead and said, wait a minute, folks. There's another group of Americans out here that are being excluded. They need the right to be able to have opportunity to succeed also. And so we built them a ramp, and we called it the Americans with Disabilities Act. recognizing that somewhere out there, the poorest child, born in the most humble of circumstances, has to have the same opportunity as the son of a former governor of Michigan, as the son of a former head of General Motors or American Motors or whatever it was, the same opportunity that the son of a former president had. You know, that's what we believe. We believe that every child ought to have that opportunity. And so that's why we built these structures. You know, people call them programs. I don't believe that. They're structures that enable everyone to apply their God-given talents and have a full and happy and healthy life. Never forget, and the Republicans do, that the preamble to the Constitution is part of the Constitution. It is part of the Constitution. And one of our responsibilities when I take an oath, what's that say in there? To promote the general welfare. Not to just sit back and let the rich and the powerful, let greed conquer all, let the healthy and the wealthy have everything, and not think about those that maybe life has dealt a bad blow to. No, to promote the general welfare. That's, again, part and parcel of who we are. And that's what's at stake in this election. Are we going to continue on the pathway that we have been for a long time? We've never been always perfect. From the very beginning, slavery, Jim Crow laws, women not having the right to own property or to even vote. On and on, all of the things that happened to us. But our march has always been to fulfill the promise of the Constitution. Promote the general welfare, to make sure. What's our obligation? It's to set up structures so that people can have a full, healthy, happy life here in this country. That's what we're about. Not to just say we're going to step back and let those with money and those with power have it all. That's what this election is about. And it's about us standing up and fighting back and redoubling our efforts and doing the nitty-gritty and not saying, I just don't feel the thrill that I had last time. You want a thrill? I'll tell you what a thrill will be on election day when we re-elect Barack Obama to the presidency and we win all this election. Convention, whatever the heck that was, so many years ago, I said, you know, all you ever need to know about this election, you learned in driver's training, right?